Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we're going to be taking a first look at Gold Mythic Headless Hershel, who by the looks of things will be the Halloween promo character. He is the second Hershel to make it into the game, and visually you can see he's kind of like peering through the neck on the right hand side, but easier to see on the left hand side I guess, and he's holding a pumpkin head, and that would be the headless part. He is holding a dagger, so he is, that knife, so he is a fast character as you can see. On the left-hand side, you can see it in a bit more detail, and you see his eyes peering through. This is just a costume, guys. Don't you worry. But he's got that big pumpkin head on as well. And because he's got the doggo next to him with the hat on, I like this. There's a lot to take in with this, but it is actually a pretty cool idea for what would be like a Halloween character. If we do look at the stats on this character, level 680 at limit break 2, he has 16,927 attack, 14,105 defense, and 15,986 HP. He is a fast character, of course, considered a damage dealer, mythic character, yes, and lastly, it's a brand new allegiance called the Holiday Heroes. So it's unclear whether this is going to be the Holiday Heroes of multiple different holiday events. For instance, it could be a character comes out at Christmas that is also part of the Holiday Heroes. I guess time will tell. Okay, so first of all, we'll check out his Adrenaline Rush, and it is called Don't Lose Your Head. It is a 66 AP cost rush, which is pretty fast. That's the same sort of speed that a lot of attack team characters have. He is a damage dealer. He's most likely going to be used on attack. Deal 2 attacks of 250% damage, 500% total to a single enemy. That enemy and up to 2 others will get crosshairs for 2 turns. So 2 main parts of this, and it's very interesting the wording here. The 2 attacks of 250% to 500% is actually pretty decent. It's quite close to what Lydia has, and she does a lot of damage. Now he is a bit more of a support damage dealer, just because, you know, spoiler alert, he is a leader, whereas Lydia is more of a specialist. You know what Lydia's like, she's a nuke, she's really powerful. Whereas this guy is going to set a lot of other people up. But, as you saw in the second part, what normally happens when you do a rush and it has the like crosshairs or stun, in Lydia's case for instance, afterwards, is the target that you're facing doesn't get that effect happen to them if they get taken out. With crosshairs, that would be a massive negative. But because the wording says that enemy and up to 2 others will get crosshairs for 2 turns, that means that the person who you take down will be guaranteed to get crosshairs unless they resist, but also 2 other enemies will too. So the decap potential when Headless Hershel is quite funny. When Headless Hershel actually does the rush, is really high. So like the name of the rush, Don't Lose Your Head, well, you've got very high potential too. And the fact that it's Headless Hershel who's doing this, I love it. So we'll start the fight, and as you can see, Hershel has no head. You know, you get to see the visuals of him in the fight. He has got a little bit of other stuff going on, but we'll look at the rest of his kit later. We're just going to get him his rush, and we're going to nuke Alice here. And we'll be able to do this with just the AP gain from Glenn's passives. So what should happen is, we should take out Alice, and she should get decapped, and then we should see crosshairs on 2 other enemies. So we'll have the rush come in. 1 hit, 2 hits. And you can see crosshairs is now on Tara, and it is also on top right hand corner Erica. Now we nearly took down Tara as well. It would be completely RNG if we were to attack the other character with crosshairs. But if I follow up with anyone else, as you guys know, that's the character that will get taken out, and they will also be decapped. That's how crosshairs works. That's why I think crosshairs is so powerful, because it's regardless of who takes that character down, it's a guaranteed decap as long as the crosshairs actually hits. So that's quite a nice rush, and the bonus as well is, of course, if for whatever reason you come up against an extremely tanky character and Hershel does not take down the target of the rush, they will also just be sitting there with less HP but with crosshairs on them as well. So if any follow-up damage just to finish them off, well, again, be a decap. If we look at the upgrades, you can see at Grade 3, you get 100% damage per attack, and that is a massive boost. It goes from 150% per attack, 300% total, to 250%, 500% total. That's quite an easy one to come by. The next one is Grade 5. You get 1 extra crosshairs target. So initially there would be just the target that you actually attack. Then it will be +1 at Grade 5. And then at Limit Break 2, that's where you get the +2. You get the second crosshairs target for the extra crosshairs. I would say this is obviously really nice. Limit Break 2, you're also going to get extra attack stats, so you're going to do much more damage. But you're going to get the majority of the stats, and you're going to get one extra crosshairs target before that. So it's not the worst scenario that you could come across. Like, for instance, if the Limit Break 2 was the 100% damage per attack, that would be much more influential. And it's just more of a bonus at Limit Break 2, and I think that is a good thing. It is definitely more powerful for your overall team, but the character is still highly usable up to that point. So overall, I like the Rush quite a lot. It is 66 AP. He is a fast character, so there's potential for this to be a bit faster in certain team builds. And I think that he has pretty good potential for, you know, being a good support character. Even if you don't want to build him, you know, full out damage, just the crosshairs being like on 3 potential characters after he does his Rush is going to be really good for your main damage dealers. So now we'll go across to check out his signature move, and it is called No Blood Tonight. It is a turn 1 signature move, cooldown of 3 turns, number of uses is unlimited, attack 1 enemy for 200% damage and up to 3 teammates recover from bleed. If you know there's a character in the game that does 2 teammates recover from bleed, you know that them in a team together, which would be Lydia and Headless Hershel here, that would be an entire team cleanse of bleed with mythic characters. This is, I think, the first time this has happened. So obviously this is going to, you know, be quite a hard counter when it comes to Zachary on defense teams. Now we already have hard counters for Zachary on the defense teams, but they are S-class characters, which is not ideal for sure. Mythic characters is obviously a much better feel from a player's perspective. Having 5 mythic characters on your attack team, it means you've got more chance of having people alive at the end of the fight as well, getting more points in war, and just generally it's a better experience, honestly. Now the first part, 200% damage, is nice. I think that's the same power and hit as well as Lydia's, so it's quite similar to Lydia's, but he obviously will be cleansing 3, whereas Lydia only cleanses 2. Okay, so just to show you this in full action, I'm going to use the signature move of Headless Hershel, and you'll see 3 teammates lose the bleed from Zachary. So now there's only 2 bleeds left, and if you do use Lydia in the same team, you can do the signature move on the same person, a different person, whatever you want. But when it comes to the bleeds, no more bleeds on my entire team. This is going to be very good in terms of unleashing the full potential of all 5 slots of an attack team in the future. And as shown, the damage potential of that signature move is actually not that bad at all. It is the same as Lydia's, I did double check, but obviously Headless Hershel is less likely to be geared fully offensive, but he will potentially be surrounded by 1535s. If you haven't seen already, he is a leader, and you know what it's like for leaders. You can get them really high attack stat because of those 1535 multipliers from team player 4 in the armory. So the potential for his attack stat being really high is big. So very nice indeed. If we look at the upgrades, you can see at grade 2 he gets +1 bleed recovery target, so it goes from 2 teammates up to 3. That's not too hard to come by at grade 2. At grade 4, the starting cooldown goes from turn 2 to turn 1. That's important, but again, not too difficult. At limit break 1, he's going to get a 50% attack boost from 150% to 200%. I would see this more of a bonus. Again, this is nice. It's going to give a good, like a bigger advantage. But the big parts of this in terms of usability, and honestly, what a lot of people will look at this for, is the bleed cleanse and the combination with Lydia, and the fact that you get all 3 by grade 5 and above is ideal. It's actually grade 4 and above, but I think most people would probably use characters from grade 5 and above. And even if Zachary isn't on defense teams at all, there can potentially be other characters that do have or do run bleed in some way, be it on their kit later down the line. And this would obviously have the potential to recover from those. And straight up, it's just decent damage from Hershel. And again, if you comboed him with Lydia, it's decent damage from both of them. Now, Hershel, of course, has those mythic abilities. These are his passive skills. He has agility because he is a damage dealer. And this will work with both his signature move and his rush. And, of course, his basic attacks. He will obviously be basic attacking because he does have a cooldown on his signature move. He'll get up to 20% increased damage in those. The Knight's Assault is the next one. 80% increased damage against fast targets. This is actually interesting because all the decap and stuff is really nice, but I kind of see him being used against Tara teams, and obviously the fast characters on those teams would take 80% increased damage, which is kind of nuts. And obviously he's going to do trait damage against the tough ones. He seems to be very good against those fast and tough defense teams. Next up is Frightening Focus. When this character starts their turn, 100% chance this character gets focus for 1 turn. This is a every turn thing. And if you saw at the beginning of one of the tests before, you just saw him sitting there with focus. This means that if a character has removed focus on their turn, when it comes back to Hershel's turn, he's just going to pop his focus back up. It means he can attack behind shields. It means he can't be taunted, cannot be confused, and that means you do not have to deal with these 2 resists. That's actually a massive deal, honestly, and that's actually kind of cool. Because I always think that being able to eliminate 1 full resist, be it within their kit, or in this case because of the focus, now it's 2, that's really nice for attack team characters, just to narrow down what you kind of want to do with the resists in the resist slots. And the fact that he's got the cleanse on the bleed as well, that's again another thing that's not going to be a problem as much. So I guess it would be something along the lines of impair against tough teams would make a lot of sense. The next one and the last one is called Not So Tough. When attacking a target with the tough trait, that target gets 50% heal reduction for 1 turn. And this is going to work with his rush, signature move, or his basic attacks. And if he did take out a character and for whatever reason they did manage to not get crosshaired by his own rush or by someone else, or in whatever, they resisted it, they would be taken down with a 50% heal reduction. And then if they did get revived, the amount of HP that would get would be 50% less than what the advertised were. So if it was a revive with 100% HP, it would actually be 50%. If it was 50% HP, it would actually be 25%, so on and so forth. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how the focus works against defense teams that have characters that have focus removal. We've got Uncle Sam, who has an 80% chance to remove focus from everybody. If you've come up against Uncle Sam, you know what it's like. And then we have Morgan, who has a guaranteed chance at removing focus from up to 3 enemies. So, you know, 3 of my characters would just have focus removed. If I had a Negan leader, this is very, very problematic. But with Headless Hershel, as an individual, it's actually not going to be terrible. We're just going to do some basic attacks around. Not really just trying to do too much damage here. You can see here comes the focus removal. No focus on my entire team. And then pops up on Hershel at the beginning of his turn. And this means I can attack behind shields if I so wish. And I can get some extra damage in as I need to. And then I could potentially command rush to decap behind enemy lines. Put some crosshairs up on enemies. You know, all that good stuff. So this is a good situation to be in. If, let's say, this character was rushing behind an Uncle Sam, I'd be able to take them out, or at least be able to be able to attack them with Hershel. And like I said, no chance of taunt, no chance of confuse. This is a big deal, honestly, for an attack team character. So we'll check out his Mythic Ability upgrades, and you can see at grade 1, he gets the Knight's Assault, 40% of increased damage against fast targets, just the first half of that. At grade 2, he gets the first half of Agility. At grade 3, he gets the second half of Knight's Assault, so it's 40% increased damage against fast targets again. At grade 4, he gets the first half of Frightening Focus, 40% chance this character gets focus for 1 turn. The next, grade 5, he gets Not So Tough when attacking a target. With the tough trait, that target gets heal reduction for 1 turn, 50%. This is going to be good against characters like Uncle Sam, for instance. If he's the last character alive, you'll do heal reduction so his passive won't be as powerful when he self-heals himself. That's actually not too bad. And then the last 2, Limit Break 1 is the second half of Agility. And then lastly, we have the second half of Frightening Focus, which is the 60% boost from that original 40% to get focus. So it goes up to 100% chance to get focus for 1 turn at the beginning of every turn. So that is where it's really powerful. Unless they come out with something that can block this, for instance, like Focus Up Block, which doesn't exist right now, this is going to be forever powerful on a character like Hershel. It does only affect him, so it's going to be extremely self-serving. However, it will give benefits to his team if he manages to take out that character that's just about to rush, or, you know, manage to take out that character to actually get the decap in or rush them, or so on and so forth. So there is big potential here for this to be like kind of clutch in certain situations. Now, as you can see, he is a leader, and because it's a red one, it's an attack leader, and he is the first fast attack leader in the gold mythic era. We have had silvers, but here's the first fast one. And it brings something quite cool to the table. All fast and alert teammates get 30% attack. Up to one enemy gets normalized for 2 turns. Now, first up, the fast and alert combo is pretty decent. I think basically what I've been talking about a team in the past where it's like Laurie, Carol, and Sandy on a team together. Well, you know, Hershel could be on that team too, and he adds decap to that team potentially. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that's a good team against Tara teams, but he could be a leader for a team like that. But the normalize is obviously really powerful. It will only target characters with a specialist skill. It will not target characters that do not have one, because only characters with specialist skills can be normalized. And you guys know what it's like. The defense team's specialist skills are very powerful, probably the most powerful in the game. You've got the likes of Payback, Bide, Human Shield, Overheal 2, you know, lots of different specialist skills there. Outlast as well. Don't forget, if you've got any of those S-class characters still being used, he could potentially, you know, target that character and just default normalize them, which would obviously be really powerful. But it could also target the characters that aren't that big a deal for you personally. For instance, if someone's using more of a damage dealer on a defense team, someone like follow-up Andrea, it could normalize Andrea instead, you know. Or it could go for someone like Cliff, and then there's not going to be anything like any bodyguards, which is still useful. But you might want to see someone like Payback Negan getting normalized the majority of the time if you were hoping to pray to the RNG gods. So I'll start this attack, and now we have got Hershel in that leader role, and you can see we're dealing with 4 specialists on the defense team. The more specialists a defense team has, the less likely it is to normalize a particular one. You know, it's 25% chance in this particular setup. If you were to only have one specialist, it would guaranteed be the guy who would get normalized every single time. So if you are building a defense team, try and use 4 specialists around your leader. In this case, we got lucky, we got the one we wanted, and this means we can use things like signature moves against Negan turn 1 without any payback potential. This is going to be massive, honestly. Now, there are characters that have resists. For instance, in this team right here, we have Gold Mythic Morgan, who actually has Normalize Resist in his kit. So there are potential characters already in the game that can kind of counter this leader skill, but I believe it's just Morgan right now. But there could potentially be other characters that I've forgotten, or characters obviously that come out in the future. So personally, I don't think this is like extremely overpowered. I think this is quite balanced, which is actually really, really great, especially when it comes to Normalize. I think a skilled Normalize like this is much better for the game. And if it does come in like people's kits, I would prefer it to see it on a signature move that just lasts like 1 turn. You know, if you can get stuff to happen that 1 turn, you deserve to make, you know, someone be normalized. This is a little bit different because it's going to be with, you know, first turn and second turn, which is generally like basic attack signature move times. But if you have a command, you could potentially rush in those 2 turns. But you need other characters in there to protect everybody. So if you are going to have someone get normalized, you have to rely on other specialists. If you're like a 1-team hero, you know, got one really great character in your team, and then the rest are just kind of okay, and that's the guy that gets normalized, well, you might be in a lot of trouble there. Now, as you saw in the intro, Headless Hershel does not have an attached weapon, and you can pretty much go wherever you want to with this character. You could go with 20% AP to self. You could go with him being a bit more control-based, you know, the diamond knife. I know a lot of people like to use the diamond knife with the impair on attack. But 1535 is a very good idea, just to improve the amount of damage output he's going to give for his teammates. But all round, like I said, he's going to be surrounded potentially by 1535 characters. His attack should be boosted quite heavily once you get him up to maxed out lieutenants. And, you know, characters like Aiko, I've got to over 100k damage. And I think the same sort of thing is going to happen here to Hershel. So that is Gold Mythic Headless Hershel, who is, like I said, the Halloween promo character. Very interesting art. I like the art quite a lot. The kit is also quite nice. I think he's a pretty cool, like, decent damage dealer, but quite a nice, got a nice support in his role as well. The leader skill is extremely good when it comes to the normalize. It will mix up who you're going to focus each time. A lot of the time, people will routinely focus certain characters, but With this leader, you're going to most of the time focus potentially the guy who has been normalized, so it will change up your fights quite regularly. But do tell me what you think about Headless Hershel. What do you think about the potential for the Holiday Heroes Allegiance? Do leave your thoughts in the comments down below. That is the end of my video. I want to thank you very much for tuning in. And as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.